Myrna Goldblum, Chair, Stewardship Committee, Eastside Synagogue, Jericho. Dear Myrna, thank you for your recent letter on behalf of the Stewardship Committee of the synagogue. I know you'll wonder about the enclosed pledge card that I have, since I have never pledged in the past. But first, perhaps I should say thank you. I can't remember the last time anyone in the synagogue sent me anything. Usually they keep as far away from me as possible, especially the rabbi. Maybe since you're fairly new to town, you haven't heard much about me, which would explain your sending me the letter. It's just nice to get something in the mail, even if it is by accident. I want you to know that I think it's a great letter for a stewardship letter. I mean, I usually dread receiving anything like that. Most of them seem like they're trying to make me feel guilty. I remember one letter a few years ago when Herbie Jacobson was running the Stewardship Committee. The letter said, "East Synagogue needs your money. Send your pledge to maintain the institution of our ancestors." Well, that didn't sound very inviting. That makes it sound like a bunch of cronies who sit around and talk about the good old days. I didn't send any money. Then there was the letter from Herbie. The year before that, he also tried, "God wants your money." It sounded like an old Uncle Samuel poster. "God wants you." The letter said God wants 10% of your money. Well, I know that tithing is in the law, and there is some percent that it is right that we should give our income. It's a discipline for giving, and far too many people give to God as if they're just donating to a charity. $50 here, $25 here. No way the synagogue can survive on that, but that letter made me feel like God was an old man with a beard pointing his finger at me. Myrna, I am sure it is hard to be the chair of the Stewardship Committee. I am glad our synagogue tells us where the money goes. Every year we have those budget reports. It lays out everything. And those staff salaries and keeping the synagogue building repaired and in good working order, those are a big percent, and we can't skimp there, but I don't think you can motivate people just by showing them the numbers. Now, Myrna, I've been looking at this letter you wrote. It is a lovely brochure. It really got me thinking. That brings me to the reason I am writing this letter. If you look at the card I'm sending in and the amount I am filling in on the pledge card, you'll see that old Zacchaeus is not the person he once was. I am motivated. I have changed. From now on, the synagogue can count on me. Now, that may sound quite surprising, since most of the people in the synagogue never want anything to do with me. The fact is, I'm kind of an oddball. I'm an outsider, and I always have been. I'm rather short. I have a rather odd red reddish beard. I have quite a large nose. My neighbors never invite me to dinner. Now, Myrna, I know what you're thinking. There are a lot of people who are short or have odd beards or even have big noses, but you know, I am a tax collector. I work for the Romans. Do you know what it's like to have people curse you behind your back? I can hear them. Have you ever felt people yelling words at you like traitor, crook, dog? I've had people spit at me. But something has changed. It was about a month ago. I was in my office one morning waiting for the usual deadbeats to pay up. No one showed, and about 10:30 I looked out the door, and I saw this huge crowd gathering on one end of the street, and I asked somebody what was going on, and why are people gathering down there? And one voice said, Jesus is coming to town. Well, I heard about his reputation. People said Jesus could do miracles, and he was a good teacher. And when he preached, he didn't use any notes. He stared you right in the eye, they said, and told you the truth. Now, wouldn't that be something? I'd like to hear a sermon like that. And I kind of want him to reprimand all those people who hate me. Tell them they're wrong. So I stepped out onto the street and I watched the crowd move my way, and I got this idea, this wild idea. I don't know if you know, but my street has a lot of sycamore fig trees on it, and sycamore trees have big leaves with big branches close to the ground, and I said to myself, I know how I can hear that Rabbi Jesus. I'm going to climb up one of those trees. And with all the commotion, no one's going to see me up there. So that's what I did, or that's what I started to do. I climbed and I got about halfway up, and I realized this is a really stupid idea. The tree was starting to kind of sway from the weight, and I could hear people coming closer, and then people saw me up there, and they're pointing their fingers. Look at Zacchaeus. He's up in the tree. He can't get down. He can't get up. People were laughing and shouting, and they were yelling at me, hey, Shorty, what are you hiding from? Why don't you just go back to your office robbing the widows and the orphans? Oh, there I was in the tree, and I looked down, and Jesus was watching. But he wasn't laughing at me, and he wasn't cursing. He just said, Zacchaeus, why don't you come down? Well, that was kind of tempting, but it was also kind of dangerous. I felt like if I moved, I was going to fall and land right in the middle of the crowd, and they were going to rip me limb to limb. But he said it again, Zacchaeus, why don't you come on down? But I couldn't. Those people were Jews, my own people. They saw me as a traitor. Who knew what kind of revenge they were going to take if I just fell on the ground? They were going to tear me apart. Well, I'm sorry to say, I started to come down, and then I slipped, and I missed the branch, and I began to fall. And Jesus said, come on, get out of that tree. Well, I didn't really have a choice by that point, and I was flat on my back in the dust. And then Jesus kind of looked down at me and just said, let's go, Zacchaeus. I'm gonna have dinner at your house tonight. Well, Myrna, I have to tell you, I thought I was hearing things. But he said it again. And it was like he just kind of threw cold water on that angry crowd. But then they stopped yelling at me. But then they started spitting their venom on Jesus. They said, how can you go off with that tax collector, with that sinner? Well, I'll tell you what, he just ignored them. And he offered me his hand, and he helped me get up, and we started to walk away. Well, then it hit me. I hadn't had anybody come to my house in years. My good china was stashed away. My guest room was a mess. How can you expect the lazy servants? I kind of run ahead a little bit and say, get the china, get out the napkin rings, kill the fatted calf. I'm going to have a banquet today. And my servants thought I was possessed. Well, just get moving, I said. I have a guest coming. Well, they got to it. They got the banquet ready, and I do have to admit the meat was a little underdone. But Jesus didn't seem to care. All I saw were his loving, haunting eyes, looking at me across the table, as if I was very important to him. I know a lot of people have said Jesus reminds me of God. And sure, some people have asked Jesus to do some ridiculous things they want God to do, like, Jesus, make me more successful in my business. Jesus, I have a hangnail. Could you please cure that? But Jesus didn't talk about those kinds of things. He said to me, if you have room, I'd like to stay here with you overnight. Jesus never promised to make me healthy or richer or wiser or taller. He promised to eat with me. Me, this kind of oddball, short, reddish beard tax collector with the big nose. It was as if his love included people like me. That night he sat with me, I felt like he kind of just set me free. Free from my past, free from my greed, free from the mistakes I've made, free from everything. Myrna, I hope this doesn't shock a respectable person like you. By now you're probably wondering why Jesus isn't a little choosier selecting his friends. I kind of wondered the same thing. If Jesus isn't careful, if he keeps angering people like he did here in Jericho, I'm telling you, he keeps loving anybody and everybody, people might just turn against him. They just might nail him to a cross. But I'll tell you something else. Jesus treated me as if I was 10 feet tall. He came to me when no one else talked to me or looked at me. He took that risk, and now I would do anything. Anything. So that's why I'm enclosing my pledge card for the coming year. And I know it's long overdue, but maybe it'll make up for all the years of neglect. I know for some in the synagogue, a pledge card is just support of an institution. For others, a pledge card is a way to keep the candles lit and the heat on and to keep the Passover matzah fully stocked. But Myrna, for me, this pledge card is my statement of faith and an expression of my gratitude to God. In Jesus of Nazareth, I have been brought into the loving presence of God. And my money comes with me. Sincerely, Zacchaeus.